Welcome to the Literary and Cultural Forum of the AIWC. Those of you who are joining us later on, we'll be very happy that you keep your audio mute so that there won't be any disturbance. Very warm welcome to all the AIWC members, friends, and students who have joined us today, and who will be viewing all this on YouTube as well. Today we are opening a new, I would say, a new page in our discussions, particularly because we are going to explore a not very well-known country like Turkey. Turkey, we have always known from the very past about a land where the Ottoman Empire flourished. And when I was a student, I remember when we learned poems about Byzantine culture, we were told that Turkey had absorbed a lot of the Byzantine culture into its art and architecture. We also know that Turkey is a place where the Turks and the Kurds had come and settled down. Turkey was little known to the rest of the world because it was a kind of bridge between the East and the West. So it has imbibed both the culture of the East, the ancient culture of the East, and the modernity of the Western world. So it's a nice, unique amalgamation of the past and the present. Today, if we know Turkey as a land to be reckoned with, it is because it has shed its monarchy, its notion of what you would say, a one-man show, towards a constitution of democracy and secularism. It is populated, as Zina will tell us, by mainly three groups of people who are Jews. Some of them are the Christians, and of course the majority are the Muslims. The language that Turkey uses is Turkish for the most part, but Arabic is also used in some parts of Turkey. Whenever the name of Turkey comes up, one of the things that comes to mind is the turkey that the North Americans slaughter in order to make their Thanksgiving feast. And one wonders, what is the relationship between the turkey on the dining table and the turkey that is the bridge between the East and the West? I'm sure Gina is going to tell us more about that. Why Turkey was named Turkey? Was it because there were the Turks there that got them the name of Turkey? Or was it something else? I was not able to find out more about it, but Gina might be able to tell us. When we talked about China, we talked about the Chinese cuisine. The Turkey also has a very delicious cuisine with the kebabs and the pastries, which are well known all over the world. We also know that Turkey is a place where the people have a culture and an art passion, because we find the architecture of Turkey is something to be thought about. And the architecture and the art forms and the rich cultures, the colors that come into their paintings, something that really attracts anyone to the Turkish art forms. Finally, we know that Orhan Pamuk, who is Gina's PhD author, got the Nobel Prize for Literature in 2006. And I think it was about that time that Turkey became very well known to the rest of the world through the writings of Orhan Pamuk. And one got more and more interested in this country that was, what you'd say, sleeping away in the folds of the East and the West. So today, under the G20 series, we are going to hear more about Turkey, a land that has been there, but not so well known, a land that needs to be showcased before the world for its art, its architecture, for its writings, for the culture of the people, the cuisine of the people. And you find that every country, whether it be China or Turkey or Japan, as we have listened to in the previous lectures that we have had, every country has a distinct flavor of its own. And it is this flavor that, as women of the All India Women's Conference, we want to imbibe and to learn and to understand. So with a very warm greeting to all of you, I request Gina to make her presentation. But before I do that, let me please introduce Gina. Dr. Gina Ann Joseph is the Assistant Professor and Research Guide of the Department of English and Center for Research and St. Teresa's College at Magdalen. She did her BA and MA at Marianus College, her MPhil in 2006 and her PhD in 2017 from the Institute of English, University of Kerala. And as I said, she had worked on Orhan Pamuk's Discourse of the Other in his writings. And like Sudhi Ramachandran, whom we had in one of our earlier sessions, Gina is also a recipient of the Flair Award of the Government of Kerala and has come back, published many articles in journals and presented various papers in conferences, and has also been mentoring other teachers in literature and in literary theory. So with that very short introduction, I pass on the mic to Gina. So Gina, the floor is yours.
Thank you, ma'am. Good afternoon, everyone. At the outset, let me thank Jamila, ma'am, who was my professor at the Institute of English way back in 2005. And also Ajay Kumar, sir, my research guide, for giving me this opportunity to talk on Turkey. And also my gratitude is due to the organizing committee for having me here today. So before I start off, my talk is titled The Quest for Identity, that is Understanding Turkey, the Quest for Identity. So let me just share my slides. I hope I'm visible and audible.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so the title of the talk is Understanding Turkey, the Quest for Identity. So to start with, let me talk about the geographical position of Turkey. So Turkey, or officially the Republic of Turkey, is a transcontinental country. And as you can see, it is from the three sides, it is surrounded by the Black Sea, the Aegean Sea, as well as the Mediterranean Sea. And you can see that the most famous city in Turkey, Istanbul, is actually situated in the Bosphorus. So that is, as you can see in the map, you can say that we have the Bosphorus Strait, we have the Sea of Marmara, and we have the Dardanelles Strait. So these three form the Turkish straits. Okay, so you can see that the majority of Turkey is lying on Anatolia, that is in Western Asia, and the rest of it, that is Istanbul and a bit of Turkey, is actually situated in East Thrace in southeastern Europe. So being a Eurasian country, Asian Turkey is kind of separated from European Turkey by the Bosphorus, the Sea of Marmara, as well as the Dardanelles Strait, which all three form the Turkish straits. So the eastern region of Turkey, that is the Anatolian Peninsula, basically forms the westernmost side of Asia. And the parts of the country which is beyond the Bosphorus, you can say that they are within Europe. So you can say that most of Turkey lies in Asia, and one of Turkey's most populated cities, that is Istanbul, it lies in Europe. So to define Turkey, you can say that Turkey is a democratic, secular, unitary constitutional republic with diverse cultural heritage. So it is actually a member of the Council of Europe. It is a member of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. It is a member of the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. It is a member of the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe. It is also a member of the G20 major economies and is an aspiring candidate to the European Union. So Turkey's, I mean, when you look at all these, you can understand that Turkey's inclusion into the socio-political life of Europe has lent strength to its European identity. So as a member of NATO or as a member of OECD, you find that Turkey definitely comes across as a European country. But the problem is the predominance of Islam and the vestiges of Asian heritage, however, has left Turkey out of the various alliances as well as treaties that bind other European nations. So Turkey's inclusion into the European Union is a very contentious issue. So when you look at Turkey, you understand that it was one of the earliest members of the Council of Europe, that is way back in 1949. But despite years of negotiation, it hasn't managed to officially join the European Union. So when you look at the history of Turkey, that is the Republic of Turkey came into being in 1923 following the collapse of the Ottoman Empire and later the Turkish War of Independence. So throughout history, when you look at Turkey, you understand that Turkey was part of Alexander's empire, later became part of the Roman Empire, then later became part of the Byzantine Empire. And I mean, all these before it became the integral part of the Ottoman Empire. So the Ottomans actually originated as tribal people, and they were forced to migrate from the steppes of Central as well as Inner Asia. So some of the tribal groups adopted, or they preferred to adopt the name of their leader. So some adopted the name of the leader Osman, and they migrated into the Islamic world and adopted Islam. So they came to be known as, or they came to be addressed as Turks by the people they intermingled with. But they actually chose to be called by the name of their leader. So at times you have Seljuks, we have Danishment, we have Mentis, we have Osmanli, we have Ottomans. Okay, so the Ottomans used the term Turk to refer to various uncivilized nomadic people who actually lived under their rule. But the merchants from Italy or maybe the French or the English people, you find that they prefer to refer to the others, that is the Ottomans, as the Turks or Turkey. Okay, so for the Europeans and the Christians, the term Turk was synonymous with Muslims, and hence when Christians converted to Islam, you find that they were referred to as turned Turk. Okay, so all these I mean, this is a bit of history with regard to how the name Turk, or how they came to be referred to as the Turks. Okay, so they were basically tribal people who were migrated to this part, Anatolian side. So Turkey can also be seen as an English synonym of the Ottoman Empire, and it was habitual for the Europeans to speak about the Balkan provinces as Turkey in Europe, and also to speak about Asia Minor and the Arab provinces as Turkey in Asia. So that was very common, and that was normally done. So the Ottoman Empire, when you look at it, we understand that it was an empire that was inspired by as well as sustained by Islam and Islamic institutions. It basically replaced the Byzantine Empire as the major power in the Eastern Mediterranean side, and reached its height during the rule of Suleiman the Magnificent, that is between 1520s and 60s. So under this efficient Ottoman ruler, the empire expanded to cover the Balkans as well as Hungary and reached the gates of Vienna. But the empire started to decline after the battle at Lepanto in 1571. And it declined further over the centuries after the First World War and the Balkan Wars. So when you look at the history of Turkey, you understand that Turkey was never colonized in the strict sense of the term colonization. And except in the immediate aftermath of the First World War, it was never threatened by any Western country. But nonetheless, you understand that Ottoman Empire was one of the most important and long-lasting empires that we have. So since 1923, that is after the Republic of Turkey was formed, you find that Turkey constantly strived to become at par with the West, but still you find that it remains suspended between the East and the West. So Turkey never came under the colonial power, yet is destined to struggle struggle within the existential dilemma arising out of the East and West dichotomy. So an attempt to understand the historical aspects of Turkey would take us to three crucial periods. Number one would be the Kemalist Republic, that is between 1923 and 28. Then their period of radical protests and left-wing movements. Then also the period referred to as, the period following the Second World War and the dissolution of Soviet Union. So of these three crucial periods, we can understand that the Kemalist Republic has great importance because of its complex relations with the Ottoman legacy. So from one perspective, people who took part in the struggle for independence against the Ottoman authority were considered as traitors to Turkishness or traitors to the state. But the new state regarded itself as an answer of the Turks to the claims of various ethnic and sectarian communities of Anatolia. But later, after it became a republic, you find that the republic's policy towards the Armenians or the Greeks or the Kurds mirrored the price these groups had to pay for the betrayal of the Muslims and Christians of the former empire. But from another perspective, the Ottoman Empire itself was seen as a political power which aimed at the suppression of the Turks themselves. And as a result, under the Ottoman rule, the Turks kind of became alienated from their past. And at one time, the last Ottomans were not just referred to as the knights of medieval darkness, but they were also referred to as the hired help of the Western imperialism. So when you look at this Turkish war for independence, you can see it at once as a struggle against the European powers and also as a war of emancipation from the Ottoman repression. So by extension, you can also look at this war of independence as a prototype of anti-imperialist or anti-colonial war. So years after the victory, you find that Mustafa Kemal Pasha was still sensitive to the independence of the Western countries, though he had proclaimed the awakening of European nations as well as the death of imperialism and colonialism. So even though he had this in mind, he was very much sensitive to the independence that was being enjoyed by the Western countries. So coming to Mustafa Kemal Pasha, he is the first president of Turkey who aimed to transform the nation into a modern Western state. The Kemalis, they wanted a total social, economic, and political transformation. They no longer wanted to be ruled by traditionalist social conventions and symbols. So they wanted, or they preferred, a new secular ideology that would lead Turkey to rapid progress. So that is what they wanted. They wanted to adopt the materialism of the West. They wanted to adopt its technology. They wanted to look into the modern weapons, and they wanted to look into the ideas to bring in transformation within their own society. So this meant creating a secular society in which religion would be separate, in which religion would be controlled by the state rather than being separate from it. So for the Kemalis, modernity implied a broad totality, and that included political as well as cultural as well as economic dimensions. And to accomplish that, that is to accomplish both modernization and modernity, you find that they were ready to bring in radical changes. They were ready to reform the traditional patriarchal society. So consequently, what happened was that changes came in, changes in religious and state policies were brought in. Women were emancipated and they were given the right to vote. Western law and Hindu-Arabic numerals were adopted. So all these radical changes brought in a lot of transformation in the Turkish society, okay? And it was actually a movement away from traditionalism towards modernity. So when you look at the history of Turkey, we understand that the Treaty of Lausanne of 24 July 1923, that led to the international recognition of the official borders of Turkey. So that was one important treaty that important treaty in the history of Turkey. And we find that Mustafa Kemal was re-elected as the president of the assembly in August 1923, and later he was elected as the president in October 1923. So the assembly basically proclaimed Turkey as a republic, and they made Ankara the capital of the new state while retaining Istanbul as the seat of the caliphate. So that was one crucial change that came in. So I mean, like various critics like Feroz Ahmed states, by establishing a republic, the Kemalis, they were proclaiming their commitment to modernity and equality rather than the hierarchy of the old order. So they basically rejected the foundations on which the old order rested. I mean, you find that monarchy was abolished, but that was due to the Sultan's tactical errors. But many nationalists, they preferred Turkey to be ruled by a symbolic figure. Earlier it was a Sultan Caliphate, but later you find that they preferred a President Caliph. Sultan Caliph, earlier it was, and then they preferred a President Caliph. So those who wished to maintain the Caliph as the President of the Republic, they went on to form the Progressive Republican Party in 1924. So on the other side, you find that the government was being urged to maintain the caliphate as an institution treasured by the entire world, the entire Islamic world, in fact. That is a kind of Muslim pope who would project Turkey's influence far and wide. But Ankara responded by arresting the dissidents and went on to the extreme of abolishing the caliphate on 3rd March 1924. So in 3rd March 1924. The caliphate is nothing but it is a political religious institution led by the caliph. A caliph is actually a political religious successor of the Islamic prophet Muhammad, and it was actually it's a symbol of the Islamic identity of the Ottoman Empire. So this event basically marked the beginning of the campaign to introduce modernity as well as secularism, which actually went on until the death of Ataturk or Mustafa Kemal Pasha. So the new regime was finally secure as the nationalist conservatives as well as the former unionists were overpowered. And by 1926, you find that Mustafa Kemal Pasha was so confident that he went on to unveil his statue in Istanbul. And this can be seen as an iconoclastic gesture in a predominantly Muslim society where representation of human form is or was looked upon as sinful. So Mustafa Kemal Pasha undertook radical westernizing reforms, which took Turkey closer to the West culturally while moving it further from Western democratic practice. So he aimed to strengthen the state rather than the constitution. And consequently, as I already mentioned, the caliphate was abolished on 3rd March 1924. So, a lot of changes came in. For example, many secularizing reforms followed, like the abolition of the Ministry of Religious Affairs and Pious Foundations, the abolishment of the Sharia courts, the abolishment of madrasas. All these were done at one point. And he went to the extreme of eliminating the clause assigning Islam as the state religion. So all these were drastic changes that you see when you look at the westernizing reforms of Mustafa Kemal Pasha. So by 1928, you find that Turkey amended its constitution and eliminated that particular clause assigning Islam as the state religion. So you can say that religion becomes yet another key factor distinguishing the Turks, that is them, from us, the Christians, that is from the European side. So we can say that so deep is the imprint of Islam on Turkish society that Islam as well as the Turkish language can be seen as two primary markers of Turkish identity. So that is very important. So this dismantling of the official bastions of Islam in the Ottoman polity had various other ideas also in mind. That is, they were trying to bring religion under state control. And you find that one effect of these reforms was to kind of eliminate institutional dualisms, which was complicating life in Turkey. At one point, they had both secular and religious courts, both secular and religious schools, calendars, and so on. So this move was actually to kind of break out of such institutional dualisms that was existing at that point. And when you look at the reforms, you find that reforms moved beyond dismantling official Islam into into various social and cultural transformations. For example, the international calendar replaced the Ottoman religious and solar calendars. And then the international clock came in instead of Alaturka time, by which day began at sunset. And then the dress revolution. And that was actually a move to minimize the differences between the Turks and the Europeans. And by 1925, the men, they were ordered to wear Western style hats rather than fez. And women, they were discouraged to wear the veil, though it was not officially banned. So this dress revolution had been a move to identify themselves with the West. But the question was whether by uncovering themselves, whether the Europeans will start treating them like human beings. So the freedom fighters who stood for Islamic justice regarded the secular moves as a ploy to strip the Turks of their identity as well as their honor. So, they saw it as a move to make them into slaves of the West. So that was what was troubling the conservatives there. So you find that even now, Turkish women are kind of caught in the political game, and they remain perplexed as to how to lead a normal life in the society. So again, many other changes also came in. You find that Turkey adopted the metric system. They changed the call to prayer from Arabic to Turkish, and they even changed the weekly day off from work from Friday to Sunday. So as I already mentioned, the Sharia courts were shut down in 1924. And as a result, various legal reforms also resumed. And you find that they started adopting various legal codes from other countries. For example, the civil codes were taken from the Swiss, the penal codes were taken from the Italians, and then the commercial codes was actually a mix of Italian as well as the German codes. And you find that as the Swiss civil code were given, as the Swiss civil code gave rights to women, the Swiss civil code, they treated men and women equally. So as a result, you find that in Turkey also, women they were given the right to vote in municipal as well as national elections in 1930 as well as 34 elections respectively. So then family names were made mandatory instead of traditional titles like Effendi and Bey for men and Hanim for women. So as a result, in 1935, you find that Mustafa Kemal Pasha, he took the surname Ataturk or Father Turk. So these laicizing reforms brought about revolutionary changes in Turkish culture. Then coming to Kemalism or Ataturkism. So the ideology that came to be known as Kemalism or Ataturkism consisted of 6 fundamental and unchanging principles. And this was launched in May 1931 and later incorporated into the constitution in 1937. So these principles basically became the Republican People's Party's 6 arrows, and they are namely republicanism, then nationalism or patriotism, populism, statism, laicism or secularism, revolutionism or reformism. Okay, so when you look at these, you find that there was no room for compromise with regard to republicanism, for that could mean the restoration. Otherwise, it could mean the restoration of the Ottoman house and the Sultan Caliph. But when you look at nationalism or patriotism, it remained inclusive or territorial, because it remained inclusive, that is territorial rather than ethnic, in the sense that when you look at an aphorism that was kind of famous during the 1933, the 1930s time period in Turkey, that is, happy is he who calls himself a Turk. Happy is he who calls himself a Turk. So that was an idea that was opposed to the idea of birth, blood, ethnicity. So according to Mustafa Kemal Pasha, anyone who lived within the borders of Turkey or the new borders of Turkey, they could call himself a Turk. And that is how patriots interpreted patriotism. But the pan-Turkists, they tended to adopt the dogmatic or the ethnic and the linguistic aspects to interpret the idea of nationalism. So you could sense this struggle between the two interpretations being there in Turkish society even now. So when you look at Atatürk, you can understand that he was a patriot rather than a nationalist. So that is with regard to nationalism, the idea of nationalism or patriotism that was prevalent in Turkey at that point. So when you come to secularism, you find that what they meant at that point was the state's control of religion rather than its separation from the state. So even this was equally open to interpretation, and some took it, some people, they took a very liberal position, and on the other hand, you find that some others, they were militantly secular and they shunned every Islamic practice. So then when you come to statism, during the time of Mustafa Kemal Pasha, this statism emerged. That is, the bourgeois had failed to support the nationalist economic program. So they failed to invest in the country's infrastructure. At that point, statism or state control, they enforce state control, and you find that the state undertook to build the infrastructure, for example, the railways or the mines and dams and all those, because the private capital was too poor to invest at that point. So by developing the infrastructure, you can say that the state kind of subsidized the private sector at that point and contributed to its growth. So for about 15 years, Mustafa Kemal Pasha was the president of Turkey, and he was successful in creating a new nation that was kind of self-sufficient and independent. There is no doubt that Kemalist reforms transformed and even revolutionized the country, but the consequences were drastic. So when you look at the forced westernization process that took place, you find that after its independence, Turkey openly adopted a policy of westernization, and that was to wipe out the backward aspects of Muslim Ottoman civilization. So Mustafa Kemal Pasha, he gave no respect to Islam or other Asiatic traditions, which he criticized ruthlessly because he thought that was hindering Turkey's path to modernization. So the Kemalist elite failed actually to project itself in a completely Turkey-oriented framework, and were keen on giving a universal sense to Turkish revolution. So this demanded the creation of a codified credo comprehensive to Western standards, which was at once national and international. So you see that the emergence of the westernized elite actually meant the colonization of the minds. So the various Kemalist reforms constituted a process of alienation, which produced the domination of the bureaucracy over the people through the destruction of their cultural and social values. So we can say that the cursive attempts to reorganize the civilization led to the internalization of values and norms of the imperialist West. So we find that when these reforms, when they were employed against their own people, it resulted in a cultural rupture between the people, the bureaucracy, and the military. So that is what happened in Turkey at one point. And when you look at the 1990s, you understand that a new form of nationalism came up, which was actually an assortment of the left-wing, right-wing, and Islamic intellectuals. So you can say that this new anti-colonial discourse alleges the fact that there was actually a new form of world. There was actually a form of world imperialism at work against Turkey, and they saw any attempt or any European attempt to bring in broader perspective in Turkey as an imperial conspiracy. So this new nationalism reads the decline of the Ottoman Empire as a result of the colonial project conducted by the Western powers by manipulating the minority groups in Turkey. And they were actually aiming at the total destruction of Turkey as well as Turkishness, according to this new nationalist group that came up. So coming to Turkey and Turkey's inclusion into the European Union. So Turkey's attempts at joining the European Union are of great, it is of great importance because that has brought in great changes in the areas of speech as well as democratization in Turkey. So at one point, you find that entry into the European Union was the mission of the government of Turkey. So the eligibility of a country for membership was actually based on the Copenhagen criterion, which was recognized in 1993. So it is defined in terms of politics, that is with regard to democracy, the rule of law, how human rights are provided, provided, the protection of minorities. Then it is also based on the economy, that is the market economy, whether it is capable of standing with the economic forces of other European Union countries. Then the country's capacity to accept the membership requirements. So all these were important with regard to Turkey's inclusion into the European Union. So the candidate country had to conform to the European Union policies, which is known as the acquis communautaire. So when you look at Turkey's relationship with the West, you find that it remained stagnant till 1987, when Prime Minister Özal applied for full membership. But Turkey fell short of European standards and was recommended a customs union. A customs union is nothing but the agreement to remove trade barriers or to reduce or eliminate customs duty between, that is for mutual trade between the countries. So in the 1990s, you find that Turkey's EU membership prospects fluctuated as its domestic politics were not stable. So, but by 1996, you find that Turkey achieved the customs union and its prospects of joining European Union was quite positive, but they were criticized for their human rights record. And in 1999, at the Helsinki summit, Turkey was officially recognized as a candidate for the membership. So Turkey was actually on the verge of being considered for membership to the European Union, provided they met the criteria, which included the economic reforms, human rights, the protection of minorities, and so on. And the European Union also demanded Turkey to bring the military under the civil control, as it is in other European nations. And they also demanded the abolition of death penalty, then education and broadcasting in Kurdish. So all these were demanded from the side of the European Union. Okay, but many people in Turkey, they considered this as a plot against the unity of Turkey, which was kind of schemed by the pro-European lobby in Turkey and the European officials. So many attempts were made to meet the conditions that were put forward by the European Union. But you find that, they could have, in fact, had it been a strong government, they could have actually carried it out, as it would make Turkey into a democratic society, and it would bring it in line with the modern world, and it would have been easy for them to establish social peace. So when you look at the polls taken, you understand that about 60 to 70% of the population favored joining the European Union, though they were doubtful about, or they were kind of pessimistic about how European countries would treat them after, because they were a Muslim country. So the coalition government, they did bring about amendments in the constitution. About 34 constitutional amendments were made at one point, so that that is to liberalize the society so that they can enter into the European Union. But issues like the abolition of death penalty and education and broadcasting in Kurdish, all those were again sensitive matters. So basically, when you look at what Ataturk did, he was actually trying to eliminate differences between Turkey and Europe. But European Union's ascension redefined it in more challenging terms for Turkey. So then when you look at the Twin Tower attack in New York and the Pentagon on 11th September 2001, and you can see that in fact enhanced Turkey's relationship with the US and their war against terrorism. So the Turkish government sided with the US, and you find that they were rewarded with more loans from Washington. And you find that Ankara, in fact, opened its airspace and bases for US transport, and they considered Turkey as, because they considered it as Turkey's war against terrorism as well. So the foreign minister at one point, he stated that this is not a war against Islam, because terrorism has no religion or no geography. So Turkey's prospects of joining the European Union were very high till 2006. But later you find that its policy chapters regarding Cyprus affected its negotiations with the European Union. So basically, when you look at Turkey's progress with regard to attaining membership, it is basically measured in terms of the Copenhagen criterion, its relations with the neighbors, the settlement of border issues, as well as the Cyprus settlement. So the outcome is unpredictable, whether they will kind of finally enter into the I mean, it's not very sure, but it reflects the ultimate test for Turkey, or Turkey. You can say that it's the ultimate test for Turkey's engagement with European modernity. So the traditional wall between modernity and tradition that dates back to the Ataturk years. I mean, that is the time when Turkey underwent revolutionary changes. I mean, that was one time. That is from that point onwards, you could see this traditional war between modernity and tradition within Turkey. So the political, social, cultural changes from the Ottoman Empire to the Turkish Republic are vital to questions of Ottoman as well as Turkish identity. So this transformation from one of the most important, I mean, this transformation can be seen as one of the most important determinants of Turkish sense of that place in this world. So when you look at Turkey now, that is, you can say that Turkey is kind of in the process of rebranding itself. That is, in 2022, the United Nations actually officially recognized Turkey, renaming itself as Turkey. So this renaming process actually began in December 2021, when the President Erdogan stated that Turkey represents and expresses the culture, civilization, and values of the Turkish nation in the best way. So the name was changed to rectify the country's image and make it more attached to the cultural roles or cultural roots etched in Turkish history. So domestically, Turkey is used already, but its anglicized version, Turkey, was adopted internationally. And according to the a Turkish Radio and Television Corporation. It says that Europe has been using this anglicized version right from the westernization years, or right from Turkey's independence in 1923. So this change is seen now. And TRT, that is the Turkish Radio and Television Broadcasting, they have explained various other reasons also. For example, the association with the bird of the same name, that is the bird turkey, which is associated with Christmas or the New Year or the Thanksgiving in the US. That is one reason for that. It could, I mean, it can be seen as a reason for the change. And then the Turkish government also objected to the search results of the large bird when you Google Turkey. And another objection that is pointed out is that when you look for the definition of Turkey, this particular word, it turns out to be something that fails badly. So all these are various other reasons that are kind of pointed out for this change in name, or this rebranding process that is happening now, or that has happened in 2022. So coming to Turkish literature, for me, Turkish literature is basically Orhan Pamuk. And the Turkish novel, when you look at the literary side of Turkey, we find that the Turkish novel achieved worldwide acclaim due to the English translations of Turkish novels. And when Orhan Pamuk received the Nobel Prize in 2006, the Swedish Academy stated that in the quest for the melancholic soul of his city, Istanbul, he has discovered new symbols for the clash and interlacing of cultures. So this, in fact, changed the entire outlook of Turkish culture. So when you look at the works of Orhan Pamuk, you find that he talks about a Turkish society which is in fact stranded between the forceful secular westernization of the Ataturk years and the decay of the Ottoman Empire. So Pamuk, who has in fact witnessed a traumatized Turkey, depicts modern Turkey that is caught between the push to become a secular, modern, westernized state and the pull of the conservative Islamic movements struggling to maintain the traditional Turkish culture. So Pamuk, when you look at Pamuk, what is special about Pamuk is that Pamuk as a writer wants to look beyond the usual fascination for the exotic, and he desires to see his city through different eyes, you can say. So he wants to be a bridge between the East and the West. That is in fact what he wants. So he argues that one does not have to abandon the past in order to embrace the future. So he very delicately portrays the conflict between individual freedom and rigid social norms, and the search for meaning and identity, or search for meaning and values in a secular society. So, I mean, altogether, we have to understand that Turkey straddles the space between Europe and Asia, not just geographically, but also historically and intellectually. And this unique location becomes the context for the novels of Orhan Pamuk. So when you look at the issue, I mean, that is when you look at the membership with regard to the European Union, you find that PAMOK believes in entering the European Union because he says that it will not destroy Turkish identity. Instead, it will help you to flourish, and it will give Turkey more freedom and self-confidence to invent a new Turkish culture. So that is his opinion with regard to the European Union and Turkey's entry into the European Union. So so there are other writers also quite famous, but I haven't read any of them. So my knowledge about Turkish literature is limited to Han Pamuk. But we do have important writers like Tanpınar, Elif Shafak, then Yashar Kamal, then Orhan Kanik, and so on. So all these are I mean, Elif Shafak is one 20th century important writer. So all these people have contributed to the glory of Turkish literature. But basically, it's because of Orhan Pamuk, you find that Turkish literature received worldwide acclaim in the recent years. And coming to Turkey as a tourist destination, you find that the combination of breathtaking natural beauty, historic and cultural sites, as well as great food makes Turkey one of the top tourist destinations in the world. Okay, so at the point where Europe and Asia is coming together, you find that it is Turkey's transcontinental culture clash. It's east-west spice mix of influences, its flavors, its cultures, its religions, and its histories that make this country intoxicating to the tourist. So this is actually, I mean, this Turkey is actually a land of sensorial richness, you can say. You have bazaars, you have mosques, you have food and art. So you are taken to, I mean, you see Ottoman palaces, you see fairy tale Cappadocia, all these in Turkey. So there are n number of tourist destinations in Turkey, and I have just brought in a few here. So when you look at Turkey, Istanbul is in fact the most beautiful city in Turkey. And there are many tourist attractions situated in Turkey itself. One is Hagia Sophia. So it is also known as the Church of the Holy Wisdom or Church of Divine Wisdom. So it is a very important Byzantine structure in Istanbul. You can say one of the world's greatest monuments. So it was actually, it is said to have been ordered to be built by Constantine I. But after the Turkish conquest of Constantinople in 1453, you find that it was repurposed as a mosque. Okay, and then in 1934, that is when Mustafa Kemal Pasha was ruling, you find that he secularized the building. And in 1935, it was made into a museum. So, and later in 1985, you find that Hagia Sophia was designated as a component of UNESCO World Heritage Site. And later in 2020, you find that President Erdogan, he made a very controversial decision. That is, he converted the building back into a mosque. So this is the history of Hagia Sophia, from a church to a mosque, then to a museum, and then back again to a mosque. So this is actually one of the most popular tourist destinations in Turkey, Istanbul, Turkey, and you find that this remains open to visitors 24 hours. And then we have the Topkapi Palace. It is noted for its architecture and collection of books and manuscripts, and also for its history and culture of the Ottoman Empire. So this Istanbul's Topkapi Palace would take you into the opulent world of the sultans, in fact. Then we have the ruins of Ephesus. It is actually, it's a city of colossal monuments and marble columned roads. So this is one of the most complete, still standing, famed cities of antiquity that you see in Turkey. Okay, and you can in fact experience what life must have been during the golden age of the Roman Empire when you visit this particular place. So the history of this particular place actually dates back to 10th century BC, but the major monuments that we see today are from the Roman era, that is when it was a thriving commercial center. Then coming to the fairy tale chimneys of Cappadocia. So like you see that on the Anatolian plateau, we have the curious landscapes of Cappadocia, and it resembles a fantasy world. So we have honey-colored rocks that have eroded into various sculptural forms resembling minarets and also magical mushrooms. And this has been known this has come to be known as the fairy tale chimneys of Cappadocia. So this is one beautiful site that you can watch or you can visit in Turkey. Then we also have the pools of Pamukkale, which is actually this is basically mineral springs, and it is a very sought after tourist place in Turkey. And then I would also point out the Museum of Innocence, which is actually a museum in a 19th century house in Istanbul, which was created by the novelist Orhan Pamuk as a companion to his novel, The Museum of Innocence. So, I mean, this is, my personal choice in the sense that if you read the novel, The Museum of Innocence, you could see the presence of a ticket towards the end of the novel that is kept, and it is mentioned, it's a self-reflexive novel, and you find that it is mentioned that anyone who has read the novel has an entry into this particular museum created by Pamuk there in Istanbul. So it's a real museum that is there in Istanbul, which is actually a companion to his novel, The Museum of Innocence. So initially, this novel was, he was planning to make a catalog for the museum initially, but later that was converted into a novel. So this is also a very important place to visit, according to me. And then coming to Turkish cuisine. So I haven't tasted Turkish cuisine, but we do have various, we have places where we get Turkish cuisine. So like be it appetizers, be it main courses, be it desserts or juices or drinks or whatever, you find that Turkish food is going to mesmerize the taste buds of the tourist. So you can see that Turkey actually offers an incredible gastronomical experience for the tourist who reach there. So there is a vast array of Turkish specialities, many of which I don't know even, but we have a number of kebabs, types of kebabs, donors and koftas and various kunafas and all those, I think. So all these are actually part of Turkish cuisine, which makes it mesmerizing. So that is about, a bit about Turkish cuisine. Now, I haven't gone elaborately into it, but Turkish cuisine is something that we all have to venture into. So that is all from my side. Thank you. Teşekkür ederim.
Thank you, Gina. That was a very interesting and very detailed presentation of Turkey, its political history and how it has evolved, and this process of colonization, which is happening in Turkey even today.
Yeah, westernization. Colonization is part of westernization.
Yeah, westernization is always a part of colonization. It goes both ways. So thank you very much for that very, very detailed presentation. Of course, you would like to know more about Orhan Pamuk and his writings and what he has done. But before we go into that, I will open it for discussion. Anyone who would like to ask questions or make statements, please do join. Please unmute and ask.
Can I ask something?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Gina. That was wonderful presentation that you made. In fact, I've been wanting to visit Turkey, for quite some time. It is in the bucket list. That was very interesting, and also interesting to know that way back, women were discouraged to wear the veil.
Yeah.
Very interesting. For in times where,
for example, like if you're reading Orhan Pamuk, especially the novel Snow, you find that there are instances in the novel where he is referring to the suicidal tendencies of women at one point because they were forced to remove the veil when they are in educational institutions or public institutions. So they were prohibited from wearing the veil when they were attending classes. So at one point, there was a suicide you can say an epidemic kind of suicidal tendency there in Turkey at one point.
But these women wanted to wear it, or they are used to wear it?
They are like both sides. Like some, they wanted to become westernized and they were ready to give up the veil. But some people who believed in Islam and who wanted to be closer to God, they wanted to wear the veil. But they were forced not to wear when they are attending institutions like, I mean, the educational institutions basically. So you find that they were expelled from schools or colleges for wearing the veil. And the family, I mean, the their families who were initially supporting them, they were also forced to make their daughters stop wearing the veils. They also agreed, okay, you can remove the veil. But some of them, they couldn't actually, absorb that particular trauma, and they couldn't actually come out of it. And you find that they committed suicide. So this is very explicitly mentioned in the novel Snow by Johann Pamuk.
That was
And
way back in which year was it, these happenings?
the year I'm not very sure, but you find that Johann Pamuk comes in as a reporter in the novel, and he is trying to report on the suicide pandemic that was happening there he's using a fictionalized space called cars in that particular novel, but he's referring to such tendencies that was prevalent in Turkey at one point.
How's the family? Closer?
I think Snow was published in 2003.
Yes, ma'am, I think so, yeah. I'm not very sure. I mean, not 100% sure, but I think it's 2000.
So it's not very much in the distant past. This is something that happened, say, 20-25 years earlier.
What about the family?
A family, they were like close-knit, and you find, in the sense that, they have a very traditional way of staying together with them, with each other. So, the traditional, very traditional Islamic way of living.
And the language is Turkish language.
Yeah, Turkish language. And you find that earlier Turkish language was written using Arabic symbols or letters, but later that was changed to Latin. And you find that Mustafa Kemal Pasha himself took classes to educate the people, educate the Latin letters to the people. So that was a very strenuous effort that was taken by Mustafa Kemal Pasha at one point, and he was kind of successful also. And later, I think Roman letters were also used at a later stage, I think.
Okay. Interesting. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kavni, for the intervention.
Yeah.
Thank you, Gina. This is Kalyani. Wonderful presentation. And I'm quite intrigued by what you mentioned, how they originally struggled for their cultural identities, like, shifting between the European and the Muslim culture. And that's what when Kamini asked this question about the veil and that there was this suicide thing, I find it quite strange that when that entire generation is finding it difficult to sort of balance between their change or identity crisis, how the religion played such important part, and that too for women. And I don't know, how did it affect the society, or was religion originally so important, or did it just happen because of the changes?
Religion was important, and according to Mustafa Kemal Pasha, he thought that Islam and the traditional aspects of the Ottoman Empire was something that was, stopping Turkey from becoming, that was stopping Turkey from progressing rapidly. So as a result, he wanted to eliminate aspects. So that is one reason why he was not, he was even ready to change everything. That is, he abolished the caliphate, and he actually removed the clause of Islam as the official religion from the constitution. All those things were done purposely so that Turkey can progress rapidly without being chained by the religion there. So
was there that thought that by getting Europeanized or westernized, the progress will be faster? Was that the thought behind?
Yeah, they wanted to become part of Europe. So that was there was a strong sense of becoming part with the European side. So majority of Turkey is in the western side of Asia, but you find that Istanbul, that is one place, you find that it's completely westernized. So
that is right.
Kind of dressing and everything, you find that they lead a very westernized life. And Pamuk also belongs to the westernized Turkish elite, but still he's talking about the the interior parts of Turkey.
Yeah, that's very interesting, actually. This shift.
Normally, Pamuk is accused of being a pro-Western writer.
Yeah, that's
but
right.
but I don't believe in that, because maybe I mean when you look at it, he writes in Turkish. He doesn't write in English. He is part of the westernized Turkish elite, but still he does not write in English. He writes in Turkish. At the same time, you find that in almost all his novels, he doesn't side with any of the sides. He doesn't side with the Westerners, or he doesn't side with the conservatives. He tries to, he talks about both the sides, and towards the end, he offers a kind of vibrancy with which we can think about an alternative rather than the East-West dualism that is existing in the world. His dichotomies. He's actually subverting
there is,
dichotomies.
yeah. There's a huge dichotomy, and that's what because I have been to Istanbul, and as you rightly said, there is so much of Western culture existing there. I'm not sure about the other part of Turkey, but then I'm sure this dichotomy will be there. Yeah. But thank you so much. Really shed light on this Turkish culture quite a lot. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kalyanji, for joining us on this forum.
Hello, good evening.
Yeah, yes, please.
Very happy to say that it was a very wonderful and beautiful presentation on multidimensional aspects of Turkey, the space for Turkey in the international arena, the culture, historical aspects, and the transcontinental perspectives and all that. Very beautifully presented with elaborate materials, content and all that. Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
I know some Turkish food items is now especially available in Ernakulam. It's on a restaurant called Dish. Very beautiful items and very tasty items. I have tasted that. Thank you very much. All the best. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir, for joining us. We have a couple of comments in the chat box. I'll quickly read through it before we go to the next comment. This is from Kuljit Kaur, who says, presentation was beautiful. No words to appreciate. Gina has done a wonderful job. Smita Palit says, really like this detailed presentations. Thanks, Gina, Manoj. And then we have a pretty long one from Bhuneshwari. It says, thank you for such useful information. Very interesting talk. And they started such significant reforms and could put them into practice so very many years back. That shows their determination to be part of the European Union and other such organizations and being westernized. Especially changing traditional religious practices would have been quite difficult and a long process. Yes.
But the problem is that they're still caught between the push to become westernized and the pull to remain traditional. So that is the problem with Turkey.
I think everywhere, all the world over, there is a movement back to the traditional, to retain the traditional, not let go of that, even while they get modernized.
Yeah.
So there's a kind of balance that has to be struck. And I think in this push that Turkey is trying to get into the European Union, they may perhaps be foregoing some of their beautiful
cultural aspects.
Yeah.
I think Smita Palit wants to say something. She has unmuted herself. Smita?
Please do. Would you like to say something?
Smita wants to say something. Let her finish.
Okay.
No, but Smita, I think, is disconnected. She's not seen anymore. She had unmuted herself, but now she's not there. So please go ahead, Kuljit.
I would just like to add that by changing the laws, you cannot change the mindset of the public. If the women of the country, they want to stay in Wales, very few women will accept the change. So you cannot bring that revolution in the society. So it's better to have a middle path, maintain a balance. That's what I would like to say.
The thing is that though they refer to themselves as secular, the problem is that it was not secular in the sense that we believe in. So they had set norms which had to be followed by the people living there. So it was not 100% secular as we, it was kind of laichism, you can say, not secularism. So that was
We're always under this impression that Turkey is an Islamic country. We never
Yeah.
thought that it is secular. Thanks, Gina. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Anyone else would like to comment or say something?
Gina, what is the condition of women in the present system? Are they going for jobs? Are they empowered?
Yeah,
Are they
there are
given-
the westernist side, you find that they are going for jobs and everything. But there is still another group, the traditional group, they're stuck with their traditional aspects. The patriarchal society, they are objects in the patriarchal society.
So it's because of the women that the patriarchal society is still existing, isn't it?
I mean, women are a crucial part of Turkish identity, in fact. So again, the political and the traditional, that push and pull, I mean, it is being felt by the women of Turkey.
Actually, it is a kind of dichotomy, between the two worlds, caught between two worlds.
Yes.
And I think it would take
There are a lot of
time.
economic imbalance between the European part of Turkey and the Asian part of Turkey. Is it that the Asian part is much poorer and there is poverty, and the European part is richer?
It should be, I'm not very sure of it, but I think it is like that.
I'm not so sure about that. I think it's a matter of how the economy is being used in these two parts, both in the Asian part of Turkey and the European part. Perhaps I think Orhan Pamuk's novels throw a little more light on that. I think some of his earlier ones, like the Red book or the Red.
My name is Red, ma'am.
My name is Red. Yeah, my name is Red.
Actually, that is what I was thinking too, that this presentation has sort of made us think of rereading Orhan Pamuk. With this background in mind, if you read it again, maybe we'll get new insights into what he's trying to say. Otherwise, we were generally reading it without actually knowing the background of Turkey and how what it has gone through. So it is but
actually he has photos also on his, in the novel. You can see photos of old buildings, the cultural artifacts. So
I think that is in Istanbul, a book named Istanbul itself.
Yeah.
In that it's
Then-
there. It's not fictional, it's a collection of essays.
How do they treat the tourists? Do they welcome them?
Excuse pardon?
Tourists.
Tourist? Yeah.
Do they welcome the tourists? Those who want to
Yeah,
visit
yeah, they
Turkey?
do it. I mean, yeah, they do. It's a major tourist attraction in the world, no? Turkey.
They are promoting it now.
Yeah, they're promoting
Their income also comes from the tourists.
tourism. From tourism.
And I see some parallels between Marrakesh and Istanbul, because Marrakesh also is poised between Africa and Europe.
Mhm.
And they say that a lot of people who cannot afford a holiday in Europe, they come to Marrakesh, because there also you get to see the both the sides, like the development that has come in and the traditional part. So I think it is almost like Istanbul in that sense.
Pamuk says that instead of sticking onto this east-west dichotomy, you should actually realize the vibrancy that is there in Turkey because of the east-west confluence. So he is focusing on the vibrancy of Turkey because of that special location. He kind of foregrounds that in his novels.
Yeah, politically it is not laid back. It is always active. Anyone else would like to add? If there are no more questions, comments. I think Ajay Kumar was here some time back. He's left. Your guide is here. Has he left? I can't see him.
I can't see him in the list now. Maybe
Yeah,
he is.
I think he has left.
the beginning, I saw his name.
Yeah.
But,
Ajay Kumar was a Pro Vice Chancellor of Kerala University and Gina's guide for her
Yeah.
PhD program. And I remember we included Orhan Pamuk in our MPhil syllabus way back.
Mhm. We have it in our MG University syllabus for PG. Snow is there.
what was your
Small.
topic, Gina, for PhD?
The discourse of the other that is there in Pamuk's novels, basically based on the narrative techniques used by Pamuk.
You haven't visited Turkey?
No, I haven't. I have to.
I think
Maybe
we should
one day. Yeah.
Because
I want to visit the Museum of Innocence, basically.
Yeah, that was also new to me that he had created a Museum of Innocence.
Yeah.
If there are no more questions, Usha?
Yeah,
you
can
want to say
we
something? Yeah.
conclude? There are no more questions. So I thank all of you for joining this session, and special thanks to Gina Manoj for making this very interesting and informative presentation. And I think all our webinars in this series have gone very, very well, and we have had young people presenting each country, and it has given us a new perspective about each country. And as I said before, it makes us want to go back and read not only Orhan Pamuk, but you mentioned so many other writers. If they are all available in English, it would be really nice to go back and read those books so that we know more about Turkey and about the Turkish culture, which is a very ancient and very rich culture. That,
Yeah.
we have seen all across the world. It is one of the most ancient cultures, so it would be very interesting. And I especially thank AIWC President Kalyani Raj and Kuljit Kaur for joining from Delhi, and all other members of AIWC and non-members who have joined. And I would also like to say that this is available on YouTube. Those who missed joining can always watch it on YouTube. We have seen that all our earlier lectures are watched more on YouTube than directly, because of the time constraint or time, the inconvenient time for some of them. Because even the last one, I see that more than 120 people have watched on YouTube. So please pass on the link to all others who may be interested. The link has been posted in all our groups. And anybody else who wants the link can, I'll just post it in the chat so that you can pass it on to your friends and those who would be interested in watching this presentation, which was an excellent presentation. Again, thank you, Gina, for this. And I hope you continue your association with AIWC and keep attending our webinars and taking part in our other programs as well. And I invite all non-AIWC members who have come here to join as members of AIWC. If you are interested in joining as a member, you can contact Jamila, Kamni, or me, and we can send you the the application form, and you can become a member of AIWC. We'll keep you posted about all our activities, and you can also join us, take up new projects if you have any good ideas, and we can all work together. With these words, I would like to conclude this webinar, and special thanks to Jamila for keeping this going for so long. This is the 32nd episode, and in G20 itself we have many more countries to go, though the G20 Indian presidency is now coming to an end next week, and the next country is taking over. But we'll continue our series, and we'll cover all the 20 countries under G20, because it has been so interesting and everybody wants to keep this continued. So I thank all of you, and thank you for Jamila for being the co-host as well. Thank you. And
Thank you, Gina. Well, I add my words of thanks. Thank you, you did a wonderful job. And all of you who are here, Just to remind you, our next session will be on Germany, and it will be given by Dr. Sudha Pradeep. So do join us next month, first Saturday at 4:30. Thank you all so much. Look
Gina
forward
made
to
the
hearing your
presentation
doubts,
look
Sudha.
so romantic, no?
Yeah.
The whole presentation was so romantic. I mean, in the literature books, we used to read about the Ottoman and Calf and all, but now everything, I mean, became alive by her presentation. It was
Yeah.
a wonderful presentation.
Yeah.
Gina.
Thank you.
so
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you.
Has anybody told you look like Nisha Vikraman? Rina,
No.
she's working as a lecturer in St. Teresa's College. She's my student.
Okay, Home
Nisha,
Science Department, no?
Thanks.
Ah,
You look
yeah.
like her. You look like her.
Tina
Oh.
also works in St. Teresa's College.
Yeah, I know. She's working.
Nisha, I know her. I know Nisha.
She's my student.
Oh, okay.
Okay, bye everyone.
Okay, thank you
Thank
and
you.
bye. I'll end the
Yes.
session now.
Bye.
Thank you.